So I run what's called a brand signal scan. It's an audit essentially of how your brand shows up in the market. Your brand signals aren't your brand. They are external tells, I guess, that shape your perceived value, trust, pricing power. And when they clash and they don't line up, your prospects sometimes will feel a wobble or conversions will stall. I often find the misalignment inside shows up outside and compounds your customer acquisition costs or makes things happen a little bit more slowly. So the brand signal scan spotlights any wobbles so founders can pay attention to those and tighten up those bolts. The way it works is I will look through a checklist of about 50 different assets. So it's like my audit library. It'll be things like your core web and your product. So your website, your blogs, your product UI, app store listings, those sorts of things. Your marketing and your content. So long form articles, slide decks, webinars, email programs. Looks at your social and community. So company profiles on LinkedIn, Twitter, wherever else you exist. Your executive also and founder profiles and how they show up. Some community spaces, Discord, Slack, those sorts of places, and even developer forums sometimes. How you show up on Gitbook or GitHub. It'll look at your sales and growth assets, if I've got access to them or if the public have access to them. So one pages, live demo environments, and a sort of affiliate or partner microsites, case study libraries, PDFs, pages, any press or PR you've got, your customer support, so your help center, your docs, any chatbots, and sort of life cycle emails as well. And then offline things as well. I also look at sort of often conference booths and signage and merchandise and those sort of things and just see how it all fits together. The point of it is to get a picture of how you turn up, how you exist in the market and what you look like. What I then do is audit all of those against a number of criteria, and I look at the codes that exist. So your visual codes, your verbal codes, experiential codes, these sorts of things. Like visuals might be your color palette or your logo or your typography. Verbal codes, I'll go through what your core narrative is, the words that you use, the tone of voice, product naming, pricing language. Experience is all about your onboarding flow. Maybe it's packaging. Maybe it's about founder presence online, because we know that that makes a big difference in certain companies, whether the founder is out there. And then there's social proof. So again, testimonials, case studies, review sites. And I'm trying to understand the language that exists and the way those things show up, the way your business shows up in those environments. So how has your brand and the brand you've built up internally, how does that translate into the execution of what you've done? What I then try and understand is once I've analyzed all those 50 odd things across these 25 different assets, are quite a big matrix in the end. But I look at the consistency of the codes, visual, verbal, experiential. I look at the clarity of those codes and the clarity of your signals. Do they instantly explain who you are and why you matter? And then your conversion intent. And do those things line up to nudge a prospect toward the next revenue step? I then sort of average out the scores that I've given those vitals ratings: consistency, clarity, conversion. And it helps me understand where there might be problems and where you're doing well. All of that goes into a brand signal scan document, a PDF, which I'm going to show on screen. And I'll show up here and run through that as an example of a client. So first of all, it just presents a bit of an overview. What is this all about? How many touch points are there? How many surfaces? The core brand elements. Those just give you an idea of what it's looking at. And then I highlight 3 wins. So in this example, this company, the first one is the founder is a brilliant category evangelist. They share first-person operator stories, weekly threads, short demos, behind the scenes, and you can see how they embody the brand. I guess they talk about the way they talk about the business and the way they talk about the product and the way it works is brilliant. And that kind of consistency builds authority really fast when you've got a founder talking about the product in that way. And it also they get to interact with people asking for a demo or asking more questions about it. So this is really nice public social proof in real time. The second win for these guys is their product experience. So the very first product experience you have is neat. It's really nice how it works. You plug in your data essentially. You see the data come up, the dashboard come up. The UI is nice. The icons are consistent. There is microcopy that's just in the right language for what they're trying to convey, and all of that says that this product-led funnel whispers that they care about the detail. They're really detailed in the way the product executes and the way the product is shown to people, to their customers. And they've got this proof or a case study microsite. They don't tuck away PDFs to let you download them and go away, and they're complicated PDFs. It's a really neat way of showing what customers who have used their product think about it and how well it works. Really neat, and it just makes you want to go, oh yeah, I want to get a demo of that. So 3 wins. However, when you look at a lot of these things and a lot of their platforms, a lot of their codes, they've got a lot of what I call palette and typeface drift. So the core site uses specific colors. It's got a sans serif font. It's quite neat. You get over to YouTube and some of their socials, and we've got this pastel salmon thing coming in, some neon gradients in odd spots, and it just creates this real inconsistency. This sort of rainbow spaghetti dilutes the recognition that their website and their product interface give, and it just looks a bit scrappier than a 10 million pound business should. They also have mixed messages on pricing. So their public pricing page talks about pricing in a certain way, yet when you look at some of their other sales material, it just doesn't fit quite as well. You've got inconsistency with these sort of mention of discounts, and it just doesn't help. It sort of erodes that perceived value of what you're paying for with this product. And then the third point here is they've got this blog. It's detailed, it's quite good. It deep dives on database latency and all this sort of stuff. But there's little help to a commercial buyer to understand their business impact. So if you're trying to reach RevOps or marketing ops and even CFOs, this content positions the product way in the wrong spot. It's a tool for engineers, and it's not an engine for team-wide growth. What this brand signal scan then does is aim to give you a key priority. So for these guys, it's all about aligning around their outward message. They've got to get an idea of what the product exists for. It's a growth engine, not necessarily just a technical solution. And that starts with defining a single promise. You didn't need to talk about necessarily what the tool does, but what it enables, and get this across all of their platforms. I've added here that they should probably consider the quickest way to solve some of these problems is this sort of a 2-day alignment sprint. So something that will help them just sharpen up their outward promise. They can stress test their messaging hierarchy, and they can start to unify some of their visual and verbal codes across the funnels. I think this reset will help them realize how inconsistent the different departments and the different teams are being. And when the team gets clear on what they're projecting and why, I think the outside world and their customers really pick up on that clarity. And that just makes it so much easier to understand who they are and how they present and what their brand is to a degree. So that's the brand signal scan. I find it fascinating to see this from, I call it a curbside drive-by. It's sort of looking at what's going on with a particular company. More often than not, messy external signals correspond to misalignment internally. There's an inconsistency with the understanding about positioning. Perhaps there's inconsistency around the way codes are presented internally, or propositions and those sorts of things. And all this does is say, from the outside, this is what you look like. Take it away, go and work on these things, and hopefully you end up with a much more clear, cohesive, and coherent brand to the external world. So let me know if you'd like me to run a brand signal scan. Contact me in the details. Just send me a DM or something, and we can have a look. Cheers.